back live. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live back in the studio this week on September 17th, 2024. We are back live at 101.5 FM WLCB Slade's Corner. This is your Insurance Corner. And ladies and gentlemen, for the next hour, we are going to take you on an excursion of the insurance system that you may have not heard about before, or maybe have had an inkling of how things work, but we're going to bring down the curtain on the whole system tonight as quickly as we can possibly do that. And as I'm speaking, the one and the only, the man, the legend, the way of life, hiding in the bunkers somewhere in Dayton, Ohio, Sean Hauser.
Hey, William, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Sorry I was late. I was hiding the rest of my cats in the bomb shelter.
I can appreciate that.
Eaten.
Well, I was almost late too, Sean. I didn't get here until 10 minutes till.
Oh, come on, Bill.
Yeah, we have a lot of things going on in my office right now, not the least of which are at least 4 ongoing renewals.
Wow.
And I was, as you know, I was on assignment last week. We were doing a large open enrollment in Florida, and we fortunate enough to talk to several people. They wanted to inquire about long-term care and life insurance, and one wanted that proverbial, not her words, but that proverbial private pension plan, Sean. She sold life insurance in her history, so her words were to me, I want something that I can use to supplement my retirement. That was her words. That's not something that usually comes out of the mouth of a person buying life insurance. So, you know, they're thinking term and, get the cheapest stuff available, not thinking what that actually means short-term and long-term. Or, the proverbial buy-term, invest the difference, which on paper works very nicely. In practice does not work unless you are really, really, really disciplined. So, lots of good opportunities. And got a call today from a local library that wants me to do seminars in the Medicare space and retirement space. No product. I don't do product when I do those things, Sean. So it's kind of Medicare 101 and Retirement 101. And I'm excited about it.
The time coming up, isn't it?
Pardon me? Yeah.
It's the time coming up. It's open enrollment and Joe Namath and
I don't think we'll see Joe Namath anytime soon. Those commercials actually got kiboshed.
Well, there's a lot of people that were talking to attorneys generals and talking about, how can they do all this and how can they be so free? And there was a lot of inquiry and a lot of that, kind of celebrity spokesman approach has seemed to disappear.
Yeah.
And in favor of more informational.
Yeah, and some of that stuff, Sean, admittedly, that it's not what they said, it's what you heard. And the word free was used, in my professional opinion, on those commercials inappropriately, because you're catering to the senior citizen community, some of which are very cognitive and others aren't. But the word free resonates with everybody. And the way those commercials were phrased suggested that what they were promoting was going to be free. And there's nothing free in healthcare. Absolutely nothing. While you might not pay a premium for something, somewhere along the way you're going to pay. And it may be in the form of out-of-pocket or a reduced network or a reduced formulary list for prescriptions, etc. So, but this is kind of hitting on an area that I wanted to talk about tonight and was prompted based on a phone call, or not a phone call, a meeting I had with my Blue Cross rep, Sean. And but before I get into that, how was your weekend?
Weekend was pretty fantastic. I was on assignment last week. I was in San Diego, California, and so Saturday, unfortunately, spent it on a lot of airplanes. But Sunday, I got to see Ringo Starr and his all-star band, and it was a tremendous concert.
In San Diego or at home?
No, saw it at home.
Okay.
And he's touring with folks from the Average White Band, from Toto.
Mm-hmm.
He had Colin Hay from Men at Work.
Wow.
And, it was amazing. And each kind of guy went around and played his song, and old Ringo was there playing along, just like, you kind of thought, oh, maybe he's just going to, mug for the crowd or whatever. Lead singing, he was playing the drums, it was a great show. Really
That's
good
awesome. Sally and I, when I got back from Orlando, which was a long week, I got to tell you, it was a long. Got there, folks, on Tuesday night. Had to be in meetings starting at 8:00 in the morning. Ended my meetings at 5 Eastern time, and then had dinner with the owners until 8:30, 8:45, and then my family decided to start up its own fantasy football league. So we had draft night at 9:30 Eastern time to accommodate their dad.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was that was Wednesday. Then Thursday I had to be in Lakeland. Those meetings lasted from 8:00 in the morning until 1:00 in the afternoon. Had to go back to Orlando for 4 more meetings, and then I collapsed Wednesday night, and then Thursday morning I left. When I got home, no, not Thursday morning, Friday morning I left. And then Saturday morning we picked up and left and went to Cleveland for our next excursion into the Major League Baseball stadiums. First time to have been at Cleveland. Very nice stadium. The lines were long but moved very fast, so that it wasn't very consequential. Very friendly. Not a lot of restaurants, at least on the side of the where we sat. I don't know about the upper deck and stuff like that. Not a lot of options, unfortunately. And what was really funny was that they were giving away hoodies. By the time we got there, the hoodies were gone. And then I went to go get drinks, and I asked for a souvenir cup. They were out. And then when I went to go get an ice cream at the end of the almost at the end of the game, at the 8th inning, I wanted a souvenir cup for the ice cream. They were out. So I'm not sure who was planning the food thing, but okay, whatever.
Already in the bottom line, aren't they?
Yes, I don't know, but I was tempted to wear my Cubs uniform when I got there, but I'm like, yeah. It's still too fresh in the Cleveland Indians' mind, Guardians' mind.
Bill, I was there the next day, right? So I had to fly out of Midway, so I had to fight my way from the north suburbs down to Midway. Got caught in all that traffic of people at 3 or 4 in the morning going down to Wrigleyville. Got to Midway, flew in, landed in Cleveland. You'd have never thought there was a baseball team in that town.
It's a football city. For sure.
All the stadium was buttoned up. All the outside, what do they call those, concessions?
Yep.
They all had their long-term tarps over them. The flags were all down. There was one Chief Wahoo poster in one of the office buildings, and that was it.
Yeah, the thing that really got my attention, Sean, was Cleveland's 20 games up in the win column, and in first place in their division, going to the playoffs, and there were tons of empty seats in that stadium. I was blown away by that. If that were the Cubs, they'd be packed to the hilt. So very, very interesting. Oh, and then Saturday, by the way, so Saturday we went to the Indians game. We drove 6 hours to Indians. It was a decent ride, not that bad. Sunday we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a good show.
Yeah, very good. And yours truly, engaging time, if you will, got to play an electric guitar for the first time in my entire life. I was in heaven.
Up there on the second floor where
Yep.
they have all the instruments you can plug into?
Yep.
That's
and
kind of cool.
I plugged in, and I was on an amplifier, and I didn't pound away because I didn't want to make a spectacle of myself. And Sally said, if you start singing, I'm leaving. But I did play, and what I came away from, Sean, is the electric guitar is much easier to play than an acoustic, by far.
Okay.
I won't put away my acoustic. My acoustic does a lot of nice things for me. But the electric guitar definitely is on my radar in the near term. We'll see how that goes. It's a different instrument to play, though, than an acoustic, by far.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Because with acoustic, it's all you. With an electric guitar, you just need to get the notes, and then you've got the amplifier to help you out with that.
Yeah, and you don't have to press real hard either, because it's the gauge of the strings are not as thick as they are on an acoustic guitar. So when I was in Florida, I had occasion to have a discussion with my Blue Cross rep, and we were just kind of talking about medical inflation and cost of health care, and I've been doing this for 34 years, folks, so I've seen a ton. I've seen so much, so many changes, not only in the healthcare world, but in legislative world. Just to give you a perspective, when I started in this business, hold on a second. WLCB 101.5 FM, how can I help you? That was Randy. That was Randy, Sean.
Oh!
Oh, wait a second. He's calling back. Hold on. Oh, no, he's chickened out. Oh, that's funny. Anyway, all right. So I'm gonna yank his chain when I go home tonight. He forgot I'm on the radio right now.
I got you.
So, and I told my kids, if you call the phone when I'm on radio, you're going on. So he chickened out. Anyway, so back in the 90s, Sean, I could go to about 18 to 20 different insurance companies between, let's say, 1990 and 1999. 20 different health insurance companies were in play between PPO and HMO. The big ones that we're all familiar with, and other companies that are long gone, like NowCare Health Plans, American HMO, Healthcare, Direct, I think it was called Direct Healthcare. It was a company out of South Africa. Actually, very unique concepts. Employers Health, which then became Humana, was back then. You had all kinds of different choices, and then that was just in Illinois. It was crazy all around the country like that. Fast forward to now, folks, we have maybe 5 or 6 companies to go to, not including being self-funded, which is a totally different dynamic. So, just to give you a perspective, for the carriers that are left that are worth their salt. You have Blue Cross, you got United Healthcare, you got Cigna, you got Aetna. Those are the big 4, at least national companies. You've got regional companies that are out there, certainly like Kaiser Permanente, Tufts Health in the East Coast. And then you've got tertiary companies like Allstate, Allied, I think it's called Allied Health, Trustmark. These are all companies that are still in play, but we're down to 5 or 6 companies that are worth their salt, and it's a real challenge because the rates keep going up. And so my colleague at Florida Blue is telling me a story at lunch about the fact that a major hospital system in Jacksonville was going through a discussion with Florida Blue, and they wanted, Sean, they wanted a 70% increase over 4 years A 70% increase. I just want you guys out there who are listening to me settle on that number a second. Because it's I'm not going to defend health insurance companies. I'm the first one to beat them up. But the hospital system, which is not just hospitals, but doctors and the affiliations that they have with MRIs and X-rays and the nurses, et cetera, they wanted a 70% increase in their per diems. That's a ton of money. Also going on in Florida and other states around the country, the HCA healthcare systems, which is a behemoth healthcare conglomerate, was in negotiations with Aetna. And when I got down there on Tuesday, evidently that was the last day or coming up to I take that back. The last day for their contract was Sunday, this past Sunday, the 15th. And in Florida, you had 48 hospitals, 48 across the state. You have over 11,000 doctors. You have over 25,000 nurses and 650 affiliated healthcare entities. This is just in Florida, folks. And they were battling with Aetna to keep their contract. The last we heard was that nothing had been resolved. So, Sean, you're in the middle of a healthcare situation. You're going through chemotherapy. You're maybe your wife's pregnant. Your kids are going through a very difficult thing, and you've got Aetna, and you've got these medical conditions, and all of a sudden, the healthcare provider and the insurance company have walked away from each other. What do you think happens?
Panic.
That's the first thing. Who are you blaming?
You're blaming your employer. Well, if you're from the employee, you're probably pointing fingers at your employer, which isn't necessarily the party to be blamed, but they're the most familiar.
Right. Are you blaming the providers? Because keep in mind, Aetna just lost a major hospital system. Are you blaming the insurance companies, or are you blaming the provider, or are they not in your radar in the context of that example that I gave you? And I'm not trying to point fingers. Don't misunderstand that question. I'm just trying to get an idea of your first, what's your first reaction if you just lost your doctor in hospital because Aetna and this provider walked away from each other, and you're in the middle of a medical
I would be upset with the insurance company at that point because, the doctor didn't leave me. The doctor left the insurance plan, or they didn't come to an agreement, and I could see that, well, give them the money because I want to go with the same doctor, et cetera.
Right. So that's a perfectly human reaction, and that I'm not going to sit here in judgment of somebody wanting to blame the insurance company for not let's make a deal with the provider. And by the way, this HCA system is also going through contract negotiations with Aetna in the state of Washington, Michigan, and Kansas right now, and that's at least in my little review today of different things that are going on with that hospital system by itself. There are constantly contract negotiations going on all the time, folks, with different providers around the country, in different regions, etc. And it may not come as any surprise to you that a lot of hospital systems are buying up doctor practices left and right. And why do you think, Sean, they're buying up practices?
They're vertically integrating so they can control the cost.
Yeah. They better economies of scale, better leverage against the insurance companies. Hey, we went from 5,000 providers to 11,000. You got to pay us more money. Right? So I've always said that dealing with the healthcare industry or the healthcare crisis or healthcare issues in this country is like trying to fight an octopus with 100 arms. And you've got a very sharp knife, and you're fighting off the octopus, and you cut off 4 arms, but he's still got 96 of them and he's whacking you. And what you don't know is that he's able to grow back the other 4 that you cut off. There are so many different moving parts here. And the other thing, let me just add a couple other moving parts here. You've got Big Pharma. They got a huge piece of the pie in our healthcare system. In fact, statistically speaking, 40% of the claim activity are prescriptions. 40%. So when an insurance company is collecting $1, 40 cents of that dollar are strictly going to prescriptions, not for surgeries, not for having babies, not for chemo treatment, for prescriptions. So Big Pharma has got a humongo piece here of the pie. You've got durable medical equipment suppliers who provide crutches, artificial limbs, wheelchairs, beds, a whole litany of different things to help a person who is going through a tough time try to at least have some kind of an existence where they can coexist with the rest of the community insofar as their health care is concerned, by either being mobile or getting, an artificial appendage so they can do things. But none of that stuff comes cheap. None of that comes cheap. And then you've got the administration, and it's not just on the insurance side. I mean, we already know the insurance companies have layers of systems. They have the claims processing, they've got underwriting, they've got their sales department, they've got their admin people, they've got their risk management people, they've got their layers of people that are reviewing catastrophic claims or claims that are ongoing that need to have more intervention, like diabetic management or heart or cardiac management kind of things, where the insurance company will literally reach out to you and see how they can help mitigate your issues. So you've got those layers. You've got the pre-authorization layers, wherein if you're going to go to the hospital for a surgery or a planned stay or whatever, you're supposed to call this entity, whether it's a third party or not, and you say, hey, my name's Bill or my name's Sean. I'm going in for back surgery. I'm going to be at Loyola University for 5 days. My doctor is Dr. Smith, blah, blah, blah. So you've got those. That's on the insurance company side. You have, on the insurance company side also, you have legislative rules that you have to follow for all 50 states in the country, because not one state is common. They all have their own rules. They all have their own mandatory plans that they have to file for. Filing those plans costs thousands, not just thousands, hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of dollars to file all of those plans, all of the parameters to meet the demands of the legislative requirements of each state. They certainly have lobbyists, God knows, in every state in the country, let alone Washington. On the provider side, you have the providers who provide all of us with health care. You have the nurses who are supporting those doctors and providers, and in some cases, they're the first line of defense. You have the tech people, like the people running the X-ray machines and the laboratories, the technicians, not necessarily the pathologists who are the doctors behind it, but the tech people. You have electricians, you have admin people at hospitals, you have boards of directors that you have to compensate. I'm guessing that's a guess, but I'm pretty sure that's a good guess. You have at hospital systems, because of their tax-free nature, not tax-free, their non-for-profit nature. They have charitable trusts that they have to fund so that they can accommodate the poor people or indigent people or people that don't have insurance, so that if somebody has a $100,000 claim, they can pull it from the charity trust that they have, and then maybe go after the patient, maybe not, who knows. But at least that they have that opportunity as well. They also have building costs, and they might have loans against the properties. They're certainly buying other doctors, which takes capital. And they're, God knows, I don't know about you, Sean, but in Chicago, when you were here, did you ever see Lutheran General or Condell when it was a community hospital?
I went to Condell when it was Condell. It's part of Advocate at the time.
So was it as big as it was now, or was it its rectangular structure of maybe 15 stories or 10 stories or whatever it was?
Well, they hadn't finished the gelato bar and the nail salon, but the executive helicopter pad had just opened.
Yeah. So I'm just pointing out facts, folks, because this is a complicated mess. Let's add some other layers to this. You've got Medicare. Medicare establishes how the health insurance companies and the providers, in fact, the providers set their rates based off of Medicare reimbursement. Medicare reimbursement might be 35, 40 cents on the dollar. And anytime you hear the government is going to cut back on Medicare reimbursements, that means your provider, instead of getting 38 cents, might be getting 36 cents for the same treatment. Now, if they need $1 to open the door and they're only getting 36 cents, where do you think they're going to go to get the dollar that they need? And now they're going to go, well, I can't charge just $1. I got to get my 75 cents back or my 65 cents back. So I need my 65 cents plus I need to make some money. So where do you think, Sean, thought on that? Where do you think they're going to go to get their piece of the action?
Well, I think they're coming to me because it's part of the, it's that whole thing where people freak out because I paid $8 for a Tylenol. No, you didn't. You paid 28 cents for the Tylenol, but you had to pay all of those added costs on top of that, including a provision to cover the 65 cents you were just talking about.
Yeah, it's a mess. And then you got Medicaid, which it provides health insurance for people that are very poor or have no income or very little income, and that's state funded, but it's also federal funded. A lot of the funds come from the feds, and then it trickles down to the state. And a lot of these Medicaid funds are broke from here to the moon. Just as an example, and I can't speak to current situation, but I can speak to about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. The state of Illinois owed billions of dollars to providers. One of them was my sister and brother-in-law, who were pediatricians. They were owed close to $250,000, Sean, for Medicaid patients. And all they were told was, we'll get back to you. You have to keep your doors open. Otherwise, you're not going to get your reimbursements. So they still had to practice. They still had to pay their staff, the rental, their liability insurance, all of that. They had to do all of those things, and they were still having to be required to see these Medicaid patients and wait for the state to pay them. I think they eventually got paid, but it really put a big crunch on their practice, a huge crunch on their practice.
Oh, absolutely, because that money couldn't legally go to these practices because have all the necessary appropriations and bills and budgets and all that. Yeah. Yep.
Well, we're about 2 minutes past the hour, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to jump more into the pieces of the pie that establish how these healthcare costs are set, and then we're going to get into why are premiums so high. So stay tuned while I'm laying the bed for what we need to understand, because it's not just one entity that's guilty here. This is 101.5 FM, WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. That's Sean. I'm Bill. We'll be right back after these short messages.